The night was colder than usual, the kind of cold that seeps into your bones and reminds you how empty the streets can be when the city sleeps. Daniel Carter, a 34-year-old single father, walked home slowly after finishing another long shift at the small hotel where he worked part-time as a night cleaner. His shoulders were heavy with fatigue, and the thought of his daughter Emma, just 8 years old, sleeping alone in their modest apartment filled his heart with both warmth and guilt. Every night, he wished he could be by her side more often, but life had given him no choice. Ever since his wife passed away 3 years ago from a sudden illness, Daniel had been both mother and father, carrying burdens that seemed too heavy for one man. He had grown used to sacrifice, to stretching every paycheck, to pretending he wasn't tired when Emma asked him to tell her bedtime stories. What he never got used to, however, was the silence of the night when he walked home alone, wondering if tomorrow would be any kinder. As he walked down a dimly lit street near the business district, he noticed a black luxury car parked awkwardly against the curb. At first, he thought nothing of it, but as he got closer, he realized something was wrong. The driver's door was slightly open, and there was a faint sound coming from inside, like someone struggling to breathe or mumbling incoherently. Daniel hesitated for a second, cautious about getting involved with strangers in situations that could turn complicated. But when he leaned in, he saw her, Rebecca Hayes, the powerful CEO of Hayes Global, the very company where he worked during the day as a low-level accounts clerk. She was known across the city as a woman of steel, someone who commanded boardrooms, crushed competitors, and never showed weakness. Yet, what Daniel saw in that moment was not the image of power she projected but a broken, fragile woman slumped against her steering wheel, tears mixed with smudged makeup, the strong smell of alcohol surrounding her. She looked nothing like the untouchable leader he had only ever seen from a distance. Ms. Hayes. Daniel's voice was careful but concerned as he leaned closer. Her head lifted weakly, eyes bloodshot and unfocused. "Go away," she muttered, her words thick and unsteady. "Just, leave me." Daniel could have walked away right then. He could have told himself it was none of his business. But his conscience refused. He knew too well what it felt like to fall apart in silence, with no one to lean on. He remembered nights when he had cried quietly so Emma wouldn't hear, nights when grief nearly drowned him, and no one had come to help. He wasn't about to let another person, boss or not, slip into that kind of darkness. He gently helped her out of the car, ignoring her weak resistance, and guided her to sit in the back seat. He tried to call a driver on her phone, but the screen was cracked, barely working. She reached out, her hand trembling, and whispered desperately, don't take me to a hospital. Don't call anyone. Please." "I can't," her voice broke, and tears rolled down her face. For a moment, Daniel stood there, torn between reason and compassion. But then he made his decision. He couldn't leave her there, and he couldn't expose her vulnerability to the world. So he did the only thing that made sense to him, he brought her to his home. When Daniel opened the door of his apartment, his daughter Emma stirred awake. She rubbed her eyes sleepily, confused to see her father helping a strange woman inside. "Daddy, who is she?" she whispered softly, clutching her blanket. Daniel smiled faintly, his voice gentle as he reassured her. "She's someone who needs our help, sweetheart. Go back to bed. Daddy will take care of it." He laid Rebecca on their old but clean couch, covering her with the blanket that Emma usually used during winter. He placed a glass of water beside her and pulled a chair nearby. All night, she tossed and turned, whispering broken fragments of words, about betrayal, loneliness, and an emptiness that seemed bottomless. Daniel didn't try to wake her or ask questions. He simply sat there, silent but present, because he knew sometimes silence was the best kind of comfort. Morning came slowly, sunlight slipping through the thin curtains of the small apartment. Rebecca stirred awake, her head heavy, her throat dry. As she blinked her eyes open, confusion flooded her. This was not her penthouse with marble floors and polished glass windows. This was a modest living room with peeling paint on the walls, second-hand furniture, and the faint smell of something cooking. She turned her head and froze when she saw Daniel in the small kitchen, struggling to flip pancakes while his daughter giggled at his clumsy attempts. For a long moment, Rebecca just sat there in silence, watching. There was warmth in that tiny kitchen, an unpolished, genuine kind of love she hadn't felt in years. The little girl's laughter filled the room, and the man's smile, though tired, was real. It struck her deeply because in her world of luxury, success, and power, she had everything except this. Daniel noticed her awake and walked over with a calm expression. He handed her a glass of water and spoke gently. "Good morning. You should drink this. It'll help with the headache." Rebecca took it, her pride stirring as she asked, Why am I here?" "You weren't in any condition to drive," Daniel explained simply. "I didn't want you to hurt yourself, or anyone else. So I brought you here to rest." Her pride bristled immediately. She was Rebecca Hayes, the woman who built an empire, the one people feared and admired. She wasn't supposed to be weak. She wasn't supposed to need saving, least of all by an employee she hardly remembered existed. But as she looked around the apartment and then at Emma's shy smile, something softened inside her. "You didn't have to do this," she muttered, unable to meet his eyes. Daniel shrugged slightly. "Sometimes we don't get to choose who we help. We just do it because it's the right thing to do." Those words stayed with her.